Story recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a comedy, horror, and thriller film called Freaky. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. On Wednesday night, a group of teenagers is hanging out: Ginny, Evan, Isaac, and Sandra. As they huddle up in a campfire at Ginny's home, they share the story of the infamous Butcher, a serial killer that still hasn't been caught. However, the story seems to be just local folklore, an urban legend that nobody believes because it's mostly used to scare teenagers into behaving. Still, Isaac is entertained by the story and spooks Sandra, making her spill her drink on herself. Angry, she storms inside to clean herself up, so Isaac follows shortly behind. Inside, Isaac is thoroughly amazed at the numerous antique art pieces that Ginny's father collects. As he looks around, he notices a crate with another piece that still hasn't been displayed: an ancient dagger called La Dola. While Sandra continues to look for something to clean her up, Isaac places the dagger on the counter and walks to the basement. Downstairs, he finds a collection of aged wine and picks up a bottle, but a sudden noise makes him drop it. While he cleans up the mess, the butcher grabs him from behind. He forces a wine bottle down Isaac's throat before shattering it inside. A while later, he goes after Sandra in the bathroom and smashes her head between the toilet seat. On the other hand, Evan and Ginny just finished doing it, so Ginny starts walking away from him. But the butcher catches up to them and snaps a tennis racket in half before impaling it in Evan's head. Petrified, Ginny runs inside the mansion to hide while the butcher picks up a spear and throws it in her direction, but he misses and gets it stuck on the wall. Hurriedly, Ginny hides inside a closet, but the butcher quickly finds her spot. However, when he checks inside the closet, Ginny is gone. Turns out, there's a secret door inside where she hid. Slowly, she walks out of her hiding place and hears her parents arriving home. Feeling relieved, she runs towards them, but the butcher blocks her path. As she gets caught, the serial killer impales her on the spear that's stuck on the wall. The butcher then takes the dola with him before leaving. The next day, Millie is having breakfast with her mother and police officer sister, Charlene. However, their family dynamic isn't so sweet anymore after her father passed away. Still, Millie tries to be nice to their mom, which Charlene doesn't bother doing. Suddenly, Charlene gets an urgent text from the sheriff, calling her down at the station. So, she takes the opportunity to leave and dumps her breakfast in the trash. As she does so, she notices an empty liquor bottle thrown away. Because of this, Charlene throws a dirty look at their mom, realizing that she's been drinking again. On her way to school, Millie gets picked up by her friends Nyla and Joshua. At school, Millie is often bullied by her peers, as Ryler, one of the mean girls, comes by to insult her outfit. Still, Millie doesn't think school is all that bad, especially with her crush Booker. Later on, Millie arrives late at woodshop class and gets scolded by her teacher, Mr. Fletcher. Furthermore, when she can't present her project, he starts berating her in front of the whole class to the point that Millie starts tearing up. Suddenly, the entire student body gets an emergency alert about last night's murders. Despite the threat of a serial killer at large, the homecoming celebrations aren't postponed. As the football game commences at night, Millie works hard as the school's mascot, but some of the football players make fun of her. She is left alone at school afterward, while waiting for her mother to pick her up. But as it turns out, her mother passed out on the couch after drinking too much. Fortunately, Charlene is coming to pick her up, but Millie is left to wait for a few more minutes. A large figure looms over the street in the distance, filling fear in her veins, realizing that it might be the butcher. Without any hesitation, she runs away and hides beneath the football stands. Thinking the coast is clear, Millie crawls out, but the butcher jumps in front of her. Even when she tries to run as fast as she could, the butcher easily tackles her. He pulls out the dola, and its gemstone softly lit up in the dark. When he strikes down on Millie's shoulder, he immediately gets wounded, as if their bodies were connected. With the confusion, the butcher stops for a second, but it was enough for Charlene to catch up and run toward Millie while calling for backup. Despite being in shock, Millie noticed what had happened to the butcher. At the police station, Millie is a little out of it because of the trauma, but she notices that the police took in the dola for evidence. That night, the dagger's power starts activating as it lulls Millie to sleep. When she wakes up the next day, she's noticeably different. On the other hand, the butcher wakes up in his own place at the old mill, but it's actually Millie in his body. Turns out they switched places due to the dola's magic. At home, the butcher doesn't know how to interact with Millie's family, but one thing is for certain: he wants to kill them. He picks up one of the knives, seeing Charlene in the kitchen. Slowly, he comes up behind Charlene with the intent of stabbing her, but Millie's mother takes the knife away. Millie's mother still does not notice that something weird is happening with her daughter. When Millie tries to go out in the butcher's body, she doesn't have much of an easy time, mainly because the criminal's face is all over the news due to the police sketch. When one of the civilians recognizes the butcher's face, she immediately runs away. On the other hand, the butcher's having a much more swell time in Millie's body, even going far to dress up nicely for school. Immediately, everyone turns toward Millie, finding the new look attractive. Nyla and Joshua catch up to their friend, but the butcher tunes them out. When Ryler comes by to get clout off Millie's traumatic experience, the butcher doesn't mind. Instead, he even asks to hang out with her alone, which is all an attempt to murder Ryler. Meanwhile, Millie sneaks inside the school as the butcher, hoping to take a shower. Moreover, Ryler and the butcher talk in the girls' locker room, where Millie went to take a shower. When Ryler goes to pee, she comes across the butcher taking a shower, not knowing that it's Millie. So, the butcher tells her to hide inside a cryo tank, but all he does is leave her there. After showering, Millie comes across the cryo tank and sees that Ryler is frozen to death. Then, her body shatters as it falls to the floor. The school announces that homecoming is cancelled due to the never-ending onslaught by the butcher, but he's just getting started. He then attends a woodshop class where he sees Booker accidentally cut himself, so the butcher sucks the blood off his finger. Seeing this, Mr. Fletcher reprimands Millie for the inappropriate behavior. Meanwhile, Joshua and Nyla wait for Millie in their usual hangout spot. She does come by, but just not in her actual body, because all they see is the butcher chasing after them. Nyla and Joshua immediately run away in terror. Millie does her best to talk to them, but Nyla kicks her in the groin. Experiencing the pain for the first time, she takes a moment to breathe before chasing after them again. When she tries to tell them that she's actually Millie, the two don't believe the bizarreness. Desperate to save themselves, they hit Millie with whatever item they could get their hands on in the kitchen. Because Millie has no choice but to defend herself, she proceeds to push them away, not even realizing the capabilities of her newfound strength because she's in a strong man's body. After a while, everyone gets tired from the fight, so they catch their breath. Then, Millie takes her chance to prove her identity by doing the school's dance routine as a mascot. Finally getting their attention, Nyla and Joshua start questioning her with details that only Millie would know. Finally, they believe her words. They reconvene at the boys' bathroom, where Millie tells them about what happened, especially the part about the dagger. So, Joshua researches La Dola, finding that it's an ancient Aztecan dagger used in ritual sacrifices. Because most of the important details are in Spanish, they ask for translation from their Spanish teacher. There, they learn that the effects of the dagger will become permanent if they don't reverse it within 24 hours. On the other hand, Millie is taking advantage of the benefits that come with her new body. She manages to stand up to one of her bullies, scaring him to the point of urination. Afterward, Joshua and Nyla reconvene with Millie to find the Dola, now that they find themselves on a time limit. However, they must capture the butcher first to prevent his carnage within the school. True enough, the butcher is back in woodshop class to attack Mr. Fletcher. At first, he tries to attack him with a screwdriver, but because Millie's body is naturally weak, Mr. Fletcher manages to outstrength the girl. Still, the butcher is relentless and desperate. Soon enough, he manages to drive a screwdriver into Mr. Fletcher's neck, then pushes the unfortunate teacher through the circular saw. When the butcher exits the classroom, he comes across a couple of police officers roaming the school, but they don't pay much attention to him. At that moment, he comes across Joshua and Nyla, alongside the actual Millie. Before they could even try to capture the butcher, he starts screaming for help, making the police officers chase after Millie. So, Joshua and Nyla help her escape. They speed down the road and encounter Charlene, who chases after them. With nowhere else to go, they drive to Discount Bonanza, where Millie's mother works at. There, they hide Millie in the fitting rooms to find her a disguise. While she's left alone, she encounters her mom that's currently working. They end up having a heartfelt conversation through the fitting room door as Millie's mom starts talking about her grief. For the first time, Millie learns how her mom feels about the death of their father. With much comfort and assurance between the two of them, Millie's mom becomes infatuated and asks her out for coffee despite not seeing the face of her newfound companion. Because of this, Millie makes up an excuse that she's married. The interaction gets cut short when Charlene arrives, hurriedly telling her mom to call Millie. When they leave, Joshua and Nyla come back to give her a masked disguise, but the obstruction of her sight makes it hard for her to walk around. Still desperate to find the butcher, Joshua scrolls through Instagram and manages to pin down his location. Turns out, he's hanging out with the football guys at the arcade, all bummed that the homecoming dance is cancelled, so the butcher suggests holding it in the old mill instead. When one of the guys, Brett, touches him inappropriately, the butcher whispers a threat to his ear before picking up a Swiss knife and going haunted house attraction. Noticing this, Booker immediately thinks that something weird is going on, so he goes after Millie. Soon enough, the friends arrive at the arcade, immediately tracking down the butcher, worried that he might kill Booker. The butcher comes up behind Millie's crush, but before he could stab Booker, Millie knocks him down with a golf club. Now they must deal with Booker, running and screaming for death. With no other choice, Millie knocks him out too. Afterward, they stay at Joshua's house where they tie the butcher to a chair. Meanwhile, when Booker wakes up, Millie starts trying to explain the same thing to him, but he's harder to convince, especially when the butcher tries to mess with his mind by feigning innocence. Booker tries to leave, but Millie starts reciting the love poem she anonymously gave him, so he finally believes her. With Booker now on their side, the group devises a plan to save Millie from the unfortunate situation. Nyla, Booker, and Millie drive to the station to get the Dola while Joshua is left at home with the butcher. At the station, it's luckily empty aside from Charlene, so Nyla pretends to be a victim and baits her to go outside. Now that she's left alone, she immediately tries to get the Dola from the evidence locker. Meanwhile, Joshua comes across a problem. His mother comes back home, wondering why Millie is tied to a chair. He pretends that they're simply role-playing, but his mother isn't convinced. When Joshua's mother comes close with a knife to untie Millie's body, the butcher's already able to pry himself from the rope and grab the knife from them. He chases them around the house with the knife, so Joshua locks themselves inside the room. On the other hand, Nyla successfully retrieves the Dola, but Charlene comes back, now suspicious of her. She makes Nyla drop the weapon and orders her to kick it back to her. While the other two are having a hard time with their plan, Millie and Booker are bonding back in the car. Booker confesses his feelings for Millie, and so the two kiss, even though Millie is still in the butcher's body. However, they immediately run inside the station when they see the butcher arrive. But of course, Charlene doesn't hesitate to shoot Millie when she enters because she's in a serial killer's body. Nyla and the butcher take advantage of the sudden commotion to take the Dola, but the butcher slashes Nyla's hand with a knife and successfully takes the dagger. Outside, he drives away, almost running over Joshua. On the other hand, Charlene orders Millie to go inside the jail cell, but Booker bursts inside the station, distracting Charlene. Because of that, Millie locks Charlene in the cell instead. The group arrives at the old mill where the homecoming dance is taking place, knowing that the butcher will be there. However, time is against them. With a mere 13 minutes left, Booker sets a timer on Millie's watch to remind her of the time. Then, the four split up to look for the butcher, who's currently in a secluded area with Brett and his friends. The guys want to sleep with Millie, but the butcher doesn't come for that. He takes their liquor bottle and smashes it on one's head before slashing the other. Then, he takes a chainsaw and cuts through Brett. A little while later, Booker and Millie come across the carnage, so Booker immediately runs back to tell Nyla. Unfortunately, the police are already on their tail. On the other hand, Joshua gets invited by some other football player, Phil, to make out, but Joshua rejects him because he doesn't have time to fool around. Suddenly, a hook bursts through the wall and stabs Phil in the eye. Just in time, Millie arrives to save Joshua, but instead of running away, he gets Nyla so they can help Millie. On the other hand, Booker opts to stay behind to distract the cops. As the butcher runs away, Nyla easily tackles her from behind, then Joshua takes the dagger from him and gives it to Millie. She stabs her own body, and soon enough, they revert to their own places. Just in time, the police arrive and shoot the butcher. As cops start handling things, Booker and Millie return to what they were doing earlier, kissing. Meanwhile, the butcher is being taken to the hospital, but he removes his fingertip pulse oximeter to pretend that he's dead. Back at home, Millie notices that their back door is open. Thinking that it's just her sister forgetting to close it, she doesn't expect the surprise that comes next. The butcher comes up from behind and holds a knife to her neck, coming back to settle an old score. Charlene comes to the rescue, not hesitating to shoot the butcher. Unfortunately, he's seen this coming and removed all the bullets from Charlene's gun. Unexpectedly, their mom smashes a bottle on his head. Immediately, Charlene scrambles to reload her gun, but the butcher knocks her out before she can shoot. Millie, who tries to ambush him, stops in a moment of hesitation, not brave enough to stab him. So, the butcher grabs her arm and headbutts her. In a sudden burst of courage, Millie kicks him in the groin. While he reels in pain, Charlene smashes him with a chair. Millie finishes the job when he falls to his knees by stabbing a sharp wooden post through his chest, finally killing the butcher.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.